crowned by the king. Yeah, we crowned by the king. Yeah, we crowned. Had to get to work, had to stop all the chit chat. Too many talents, can't waste them. Yeah, that's big facts. Making kingdom moves, standing on business like me, Shaq. Aiming for our goals, click clack. Moving forward, no need to reach back. Tell me where I need to preach at. Tell me where I need to speak at.
There we go, man. Making kingdom moves. Back with Crowncast. As always, my illustrious co-host with the glasses, Joel and Gulu.
Yes, sir.
And I'm excited about this episode today, just because Joel and we actually had the honor to get to know who I'm about to bring into the Crowncast this weekend, and just an incredible entrepreneur, incredible leader. And, this is somebody that you guys are going to see speaking from stages that's going to be a high-paid speaker, because when he speaks, he commands the room. Like I mentioned before, Florida-based entrepreneur of multiple million-dollar businesses, and now moving into the speaking circuit. And we have the honor to have Mr. Jeff Kaulbars with us today. How you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm doing great. Fabulous Monday.
It's another Monday. Hopefully it wasn't a crazy Monday for you, man, but we respect your time and honestly honored to host you today.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
sir.
guys. Glad to be here.
And you came straight from the news. You're on the news today.
I thought I was going to say that, yeah.
That's
from
right.
the news to the Crowncast. Let's go.
That's right. Let's go. Yeah, I woke up early, and I live in Fort Myers. Drove up to Tampa, about a 2-hour drive, and had a small 5-minute segment about one of my companies up there, and got back here to get on with you guys.
Let's go.
Man, I feel honored. We feel honored, man. Well, appreciate you, Jeff. We like to begin with testimony, how people can know you, your story, your message. You can start back from when you're really young. Speaking of entrepreneur journey, you can start there or however you want, but this is your testimony, your time to shine. Just tell us, man. Tell us.
Yeah, great. I have a friend of mine once said to me, he's like, Jeff, you have one of those faces that looks like you learn things the hard way. And my life there's been some hard times, but I've had some blessings. I grew up in Amarillo, Texas, just north of you guys.
Let's go, Texas boy.
Oh, yeah.
I knew, man. I knew there's a connection. I knew.
That's right. I still wear them cowboy boots.
That's a fact.
And I grew up actually outside of Amarillo, Dumas. So it was a small town, less than 15,000 people. Wow. And my dad, one story I wanted to share with you actually before I get too far is my dad he's an amazing dad. I had great parents. And one of the things that he taught us growing up was the importance of reading. And I didn't know this until just a little while ago, that my dad graduated high school with barely able to read.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. And he read to us every night, and he would make up these like cool voices. And one of the best books that's ever been written is Hank the Cowdog. And so my mom told me years ago, just a little bit of, maybe 10 years ago, I guess. And she's like, you know what your dad read to you every night? And I didn't know at the time that he didn't know how to read. And she said that it was to practice reading. And he wanted his kids to make sure that they valued reading. And the amazing thing about how he learned how to read was he started attending church.
Oh, okay.
And with going to church, he felt obligated. He needed to learn how to read so he could read the Bible. And it just started his journey. And he actually became a very influential speaker. I mean, he gave talks in front of 7,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah. He's got an amazing life, and he taught us a lot of amazing things. And that was one of the biggest things I learned from him was the value of reading. But, as a religious upbringing, I don't think, like I talked to Paul Getter that you guys had on, before, and we talk about religion, and I'm not per se a religious person, but there's nothing like Paul says, Jeff, if you weren't raised that way, do you think you would have the values you have?
Yeah.
And, that hits hard. And he's actually made me think about that a lot more lately because I've known him for now 3 months now. And, you know, there's something about what the Bible teaches you.
Yeah.
And there's something about being brought up that way that we're missing in the world today. So that's kind of my story on the religious side. I was brought up a very religious household. We attended church frequently. And it was a big part of my life. It still is. I think those values and principles they live by. I mean, whether there's a God or there's not a God, people can argue it all day. But you know what? Those principles, they're solid. Those values, they're solid. And that community, what you get in that community and like-minded people like yourselves, like you guys are just outstanding guys. I mean, I met you only for 2 days, and I came home talking to my wife about you guys. It's really nice to see. I mean, I'm telling you guys hit me hard, man. You know, you guys hit hard. You found a place in my heart, and I told my wife, you know, we need more young men like this, and that's why I was kind of passionate about coming on here with you, because just being around you is really motivating. So, so we moved to Fort Myers. My dad moved us to Tampa. We lived there for a little while. Then I came down to Fort Myers. I was in my 20s. I was working with my dad. I didn't want to work with him anymore, so I started out on my own with a lawnmower and a dream. And that dream was a disaster. It was a disaster. And if it wasn't for this one little article that I found in the paper, and literally it was, I wish I had that now to this day, because it changed my life. It couldn't have been more than 2 sentences, 3 sentences talking about a business course. If you're struggling in business, and I was making like $12,000 a year the first year. It was awful, man. It was not good. And I was working so many hours. I'm like, this is like $1 an hour I'm making, you know?
This is not it.
No. So I took this course. I had no money, and it was a $500 course. I signed up for the scholarship. They approved my letter. I got this free scholarship. It was a 3-month course, once a week, 3 hours with about 20, 30 hours worth of homework plus my job. And I did that for 3 months. At the end of 3 months, I had a business plan, which I didn't know anything about. And I had a focus. I had a niche market. And literally within about 2 years, I was doing $1 million a year. It was like, I'm telling you, it was life-changing. And I'm talking about, if I don't have this business plan, I wish I did. The worst business plan that you've ever seen in your life, but it worked. You know, and it was about focus. It was about, I had one home in this high-end community, and the lady that was the instructor said, Jeff, only focus on that community only. And I'm thinking, what? And I did. And I had a goal to get 60 homes in there, and I got them. I ended up with 1 out of 5 of the homes in that community. And that changed my life. It really taught me about marketing, taught me about niche, taught me about focus, and it taught me how to do a business plan. And that changed my life. And her name was Beth Hagen, and she changed my life. And I've had mentors like that all my life. A lot of my mentors I have never met because I'm such a reader. I've read Stephen Covey's book. I'm actually a facilitator in the 7 Habits, Principle-Centered Leadership, Brian Tracy, all those guys. Never met him. I wish I could have met Stephen Covey, the late Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
Tremendous, tremendous man. And he affected my life more than anyone will ever know. And I used his book like a Bible. I was taught how to read the Bible, I was taught how to study, how to prepare. And that's what I did with his book. And so that kind of catapulted me. I actually started giving. I got to that business. I grew to a little over 100 employees. And a lot of them were Spanish. They're from Guatemala. That book affected me so much. I had courses at 6 o'clock in the morning. I bought them all books, and I gave a free course for 30 minutes every morning, going over the 7 habits, and I had good attendance. I mean, out of the 100, sometimes we'd have 20, 30 people there in the morning.
Wow.
Man.
It was huge. And I hope, and I have one of my best success stories, I would say, is one of my first employees is named Juan Gonzalez. He started working with me when I had 3 guys. And he worked with me until I had over 100 guys, and then he left. He wanted to start his own business. He went from running a weed eater and not knowing English to starting his own business to now his business does $13 million a year.
Come on, man.
Man.
I'm dead serious, man. This guy's he's a legend. He's a legend in his community, in his church. I'm telling you, he is one of the top tier guys. He is the guy I would trust with my life.
Wow.
And that is the kind of power that comes from interchange, like comes from being open and vulnerable with people. And he's affected my life in a lot of ways. And it's just great to see people like that. So that's a tremendous, and I have a couple other guys. Rick, his name's Richard Mendoza. Again, he's probably does, I don't know, $2 or $3 million a year. He worked for me. And so I'm a big believer in giving back. I'm a big believer in giving back. And I feel like that's what you guys are doing. You're giving back. So, I got up to 100 million or 100 employees, and that was my lawn and landscape business. Then I kind of veered off. I went into trees, and I went into disaster relief, which you can get into if you like. Yeah. And then I've been married to my wife, Brenna, for 10 years. She's my best friend. She's the best thing that I've ever happened to me. And I feel like all my life lessons and I'm dead serious about this. All my life lessons were just to be made to meet her and to win her over. And she is a blessing every day in my life.
Man, we love hearing that.
Yes.
I truly believe like we go through things in life to like get us closer to our destiny, and being a part of that destiny is our spouse, our significant other. Like all the things that you went through, like you said, it molded you to be that perfect, like her dream husband. You know what I mean?
Awesome. Can you talk about like meeting her? Because a lot of times entrepreneurs, we're just like straight headed. We go forward, and it's like, hey man, you're single. You need to find a running mate. How do you choose the right one, especially in 2025? It's like it's a lot of women out there, a lot of men out there chasing the wrong things. But how can you be focused? And if you can share off your experience off of that,
I'll tell you what I tell my son. I have an 18-year-old, and I tell him, become the man that you want to be and the husband you want to be. And I really believe that your wife will appear. I mean, you've got to be the leader. You've got to be honorable. You've got to be able to understand what it takes to communicate. And there's a lot of things we do in business. I mean, I look at business and personal as the same thing personally. I mean, I'm the same guy. Yep. And if you're a great leader in business, but the thing is I really, business, we get focused on business. And then, like you said, it's easy to get so focused on business. But if you grow yourself and become the man that you would be proud of, that your daughter would marry, right? Then you're going to find the woman that you want. And I wasn't even looking. I wasn't looking.
That's how it happened.
She appeared. And you know what? I'm a big risk taker, an opportunity to go at her. And I just went. And it took me 9 months for her to go on a date with me.
Wow.
What was that pickup line?
It was obviously horrible. It was not a good, whatever I was doing, it wasn't right, but she just kept saying no. And I just, when I want something, I don't give up.
That's
and
cool,
so she's just tremendous. We have a great relationship, and she's a go-getter. And I think you just got to work on yourself. That's what I think.
Yeah. When you're here in Dallas, you spoke about decision-making, being a leader. I can tell that those books that you read impacted you. I'm a huge reader myself. I believe, leaders are readers. Winners are readers as well. Yeah. And I, now we live in an age to where like, hey, let me go pay for a mentor. Let me go, seek out this counseling. But books are so amazing. It can transform you more than I truly believe, a coach or a mentor can, because it's somebody's brain on a piece of paper, right? And you're able to soak that knowledge up. Like there's open secrets in the world in order to succeed, in order to become the best version of yourself. They're all written in books. And it's so necessary to be that husband, to be that leader. And you're talking about the gentleman that the lives you impacted from reading, then pouring back into them. That's so necessary. I've worked for corporations, big businesses, and that's not done nowadays. And just knowing you and getting to know your heart a little bit more, you care. You genuinely care about people's success. Like you wear that on you.
You know, one thing, sorry to interrupt you, Joel.
No, you're good.
One thing I always think about Stephen Covey. One of the lessons I learned from Stephen Covey was he said, you know what, as you learn this information about the 7 habits, teach other people. And that, I don't know, man, that impacted me. And he said it's kind of a selfish thing because the more you teach, the more you learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, when you have kids, right? Like everything kind of comes full circle and until it isn't happen until you have those kids and you're like, oh yeah, life actually makes sense now. And then it shows you how much you don't know and how much you need to actually learn a little bit more. And then, being married, having a significant other, you never know enough, right?
That's right.
Man, I just love that your dad made you read, man. Because I'm fresh off the boat from Africa, man. So all we had was books. My dad would come home, you're reading this chapter book. I'm like, where'd you get this one? This is a Mary Kate and Ashley book. I'm telling you, like, you just read it. You're going to tell me what it's about. Your brother already read it, so you can't lie to me. And so I would read. I just grew up reading books I didn't want to read. It wasn't until I got older I understand the purpose and the reason why. But it all stemmed from my father, like, forcing us to read. So I'm going to do the same thing to my kids. I might not give them Mary Kate and Ashley, but I'm going to give them random books like, hey, you're going to read this. You're going to tell them what it's about. You're going to learn. But that's propelled me now, and I'm reading a lot of more books throughout the year. But I guess the question I want to ask is there certain books that you like, hey, for a young entrepreneur, you should start with this one that you did that you can recommend some of those books?
Well, I would say 7 Habits, obviously, but Brian Tracy, trying to think what his books are based on sales. He's a big sales guy. So any of Brian Tracy and goal, he's a big goal setter. I use his stuff still to this day. He's big about self-talk, telling yourself, hey, I love myself. I'm a great salesman. And those tools work. I shared with you that book, Good to Great by John Collins. That's a great book.
Mm-hmm.
Strengths and Weaknesses is another great book. I don't know who writes that, but maybe I can share that with you later. But that book actually helped me appreciate the fact of focusing on your strengths. Sometime in this day and age, everybody's worried about perfection and not having any weaknesses. But that book helped me appreciate is focus on your strengths, because your weaknesses are going to be real tough to improve on. And that book was a big deal for me. The 4 Agreements, everybody knows that book. But that book, man, big time book. Actually, trying to think of what else. Those are some of the books. If something else comes up, I'll let you know. But I have a whole list. I actually have I use my phone now, so I do less reading and more listening. But I have constantly books going. Oh, another book is, you probably know this one, Chris Voss.
Yep.
That's a great one. Don't Split the Difference.
Yeah, good one.
And that book, every one of these books, they help your marriage. That book,
they do.
That book, I'll tell you I'll tell you a secret, man. And it works. And my wife knows it. Man. And I just say, when she's talking, he's like, say, it seems like. Seems like you feel this way. Baby, it seems like you're feeling this. Or sounds like this. Yeah. And you know what? It works every time, and she knows it. Later on, she's like, I know what you were doing.
You did it again.
The mirroring.
Yes, the mirroring. And labeling, like mislabeling is really good. Hey, they may seem, if you're not sure if they're upset or they're angry or they're happy, you can just, hey, it seems like you're not very happy right now. No, I'm really happy. People don't like to be mislabeled.
That's good. Jeff, you are successful in multiple different businesses across a few different industries. Entrepreneurship, starting a business is scary for a lot of people, right? Because, the statistics, you're more likely to fail than you are to succeed. It's kind of like marriage, right? You're more likely to get divorced than you are to stay together. What do you feel like most entrepreneurs miss when it comes to creating that success? Like, what worked for you?
I would say persistence and resilience. You got to be willing to take some big punches to the gut, because they're going to come. And sometimes, You've got to grind and grind and grind, and eventually it will pay off. It's a grind. And most people, like you said, they don't succeed. And I've had some big failures, but you've got to know how to rebound off of those failures. You've got to be able to own the failures and feel the pain. And I'm a big believer in that. I'm a big believer in feeling that pain of that failure, because that will help you get motivation to keep going. And I'll tell you one more quick point about discipline is just choosing to do something and choosing not to do it, and learning how to say no to something. And sometimes I'll just say no to something I'm doing and just get that discipline fired up, because as a business owner, it's so much about having discipline.
Absolutely. Yeah. Discipline is everything. You move the emotion from it and you just do it because you know it's necessary. You said something that I loved. You're talking about pain, right? I always say address the emotion. A lot of times we experience things, whether it be in our personal lives or in business, and we want to hide from it. We want to just like go on to the next thing and just like bury it. I think it's so important to address the emotion. Like if you need to be mad in the moment. If you need to get a cry out, but move on from that. Because if you hold on to it, it's not necessary for where you need to go in your journey. It literally isn't going to help you. And in fact, it's going to slowly eat at you and destroy you and change your decision making. But that's such a great point that you added, is it's okay to, be in the pain, but move on from it.
That's right. I mean, I'll bathe in it. I'll bathe in that pain, baby. I will
Let me get that
soak
pain.
it in. That's right. I will soak that in, man.
Yeah, it's like, did you play sports growing up?
Yeah, well, in the religion I was in, we weren't allowed to play organized sports. But I played football and things like that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, you compete, right, in business, right? It's the same thing. It's the same mentality. It's almost good to have a chip on your shoulder, right? That really eats at you to get you up and be like, no, we're going to take this to the next level.
I mean, yeah, you spoke about gut punches. Can you talk about some stories? I know you have the big one that I want you to mention for sure, but
that's what I was trying to get to.
Yeah, any little ones that you had in your early 20s when you first started some business ventures and it didn't work out, and you talked about rebounding. How did you rebound from those? Can you talk about some of those stories, because those stories are going to speak to some of the audience?
Okay. What I've found that I probably learned after this experience or sometime after is I push real hard. I push forward real hard on something until it doesn't feel right. And then I'll back off and I'll immediately make a different decision. I remember when I was early on, I had one truck and one trailer, and we were growing. And so I bought another truck and I bought another trailer, and I was excited to get more business, and then we took a trip to Pennsylvania. On my way back from Pennsylvania, I don't know what happened, but literally when I crossed the Florida state line, I felt like anxiety, just super anxiety from having this extra truck and all the stress. And, you're trying to balance cash flow. And I'm thinking, man, I want to be bigger. I want to keep growing. But I got back to Fort Myers and I took a day or two and I actually sold that truck and trailer, and I went back to one truck and one trailer. And it was kind of embarrassing. My friends are like, "What are you doing? I thought you were being successful," And I backed off and I regrouped, and then I went back at it. So I think a lot of things that guys can do is learn how to push hard, and then if it's not working, back off and reset, regroup, and then go after it again.
After the same field, like don't change. I know some entrepreneurs start something, they're like, oh, that's not working, I need to go change something else, and they're always jumping. They never actually succeed because they're always changing. So you're saying like go back to that same thing you were doing, or?
Well, I did at that point.
Okay.
Now, and I stuck with that business. I mean, I've been in the landscape and tree industry for 30 years. I've tried to leave many times, but come back to this. But I'm not opposed to jumping around either. I like what Gary Vee says. He's a big proponent of in your 20s and 30s.
Just try it.
Man, just try anything.
Yeah.
Fail as many times as you can fail. What is it going to hurt? Don't worry about what people say. Because I met a man in Panama City in my 40s. And he told me, Jeff, and I was, like I have up and down because I take big risk and sometimes they don't work out. And he told me in your 50s and 60s is when you're going to make all your money.
Oof.
And I'm 50. So guess what? Look out. Look out. I just figured it up, I don't know, a month or two ago. I've done about $100 million in sales in 30 years.
Wow.
And yeah, that's impressive, but there's guys that's done more. There's guys that done less, but that was my best, right? I gave it my best. Every decision I make, I literally think about it and try to do my best. But my next 10 years, I better do 100 million in the next 10 years, right? So when it's jumping around, do whatever you got to do, but figure it out by the time you're 50.
Yeah, there's enough time right there. But yeah, we live in a world to where like people post their wins, right? Social media is like so integrated into our lives, and there's the successful 22-year-olds riding around in Lamborghinis, and that just it really hurts the perception of what real life actually is, right? Like there are those people, but being in the rooms like we were in this weekend, Joel and I were the youngest people in the room. And it's funny you mentioned that, because that's one of the takeaways that I went home. I told my girlfriend, I'm like, I was telling about the caliber of people in that room, our age. And I'm like, if you just looked online, you would think that it would be the opposite. Everybody that's young is successful. But yeah, man, it's not like that at all. And it takes time to really find out what your purpose is. I think a lot of people struggle with that. Like, oh man, I graduate high school. What is my purpose? I know I definitely did. I didn't take a lot of risks as a kid. I'm at that stage right now, but through failures, through finding things out, right? Seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, you find your purpose, you find your passions, what works for you, and how you can go and monetize that to become, $100 million man like yourself.
Yeah. And success, man, it's not about the cars, that obviously is a big deal, but, I think that my whole purpose for the past 30 years, I have a level of income that I want to make sure I make, and I do that. But success is really about who you affect and the people around you, and what do you stand for every day. And absolutely. I'm a big proponent of that. Now, I do believe that money is what I've come to realize is, big goals, big money goals has helped me to change as a person. Doesn't maybe work for everybody, but I strive for this $100 million deal for the next 10 years because I'm not going to be the same person in 10 years. And if I live by my values and I live by my integrity, I'm going to be leveling up in those ways to get to that level. And that money, if it comes or if it doesn't, it's what I'm striving to become that matters.
Exactly. Yes, man. You're giving me goosebumps. I'm not even joking. Success is a inward, outward journey, right? It's about who you become through the process.
Yeah.
Man, let's go. You talked about in Dallas, some big failures you experienced and how that shaped you as a leader, as an entrepreneur. Would you mind sharing with our community a little bit from that talk?
Sure. So one of my biggest failures came 7 years ago, and it was a doozy. I'd spent, it was devastating. It really was. We had spent months, I had this, actually what happened is an opportunity came up, and I talked to my wife about it, and I said, we can go all in, but we got to go all in on this. And if it doesn't work, it's going to be devastating. And so we sat down, and we're a team, and so we both decided, let's go. And we spent months grinding with training our employees on how to run this sophisticated, heavy equipment. This equipment cost us, almost $3 million. Just one of the machines was $1 million. And when it came down to finally, and I had done everything right. I had the right guys. I was right in front of the decision maker. And that day, I just remember this day like it was yesterday. He was on the phone, and it was massive chaos in the room. There were people coming and going. And in the mid-chaos, I'm trying to negotiate this deal to get this contract signed. that was going to be a $10 to $20 million contract for me for that year, and would have ended up being tens of millions of dollars in the years coming, right? And he says, Jeff, I don't have time for you right now. I'm like, what is he thinking? You don't have time? I've done everything you've asked. I actually did a golf course for them at cost. Wow. I put a lot of time and effort into this. And then he says, Jeff, you're going to have to come back tomorrow. I'm like, okay. So at that moment, it's like everything went south for me. I left. I made the decision to leave. Later that day, he signed with someone else. And I'm telling you, imagine having to call your wife up on something. I'm not going to get emotional, but I'm telling you, I had to, talk to your wife and say, hey, you know what? All this work that we just did, we're not getting this contract. It was devastating. And ever since that happened to me, what I should have done, because that's a disaster relief business it's not on the private sector. It's on more government contracts and things like that. And what I should have done now, I realize, is I should have stayed in the room. I should have negotiated with him and got that deal done right then, but I left. And since that time, 7 years ago, I've been trying to figure out how to make sure that never happens to me again. And that's what I'm so passionate about teaching. I don't think there's enough books or enough focus on decision making. And in that moment in time, that decision that I left, that was a big decision. And why did I leave? And that's kind of what I was talking about the other day, is why did I leave? Why did I hesitate? Is because I let fear get in. I felt like, you know what? This success isn't for me. It's for somebody else. And now, I have a whole presentation I'm giving May 23rd with Paul Getter about that decision making, because that is something I sit down every so often. I'll sit down, like I talked about feeling pain. I think about the pain. I think about how it hurt my wife, how it bruised my ego. But my best opportunities have been coming since then.
Absolutely. Turn that pain into passion.
Yeah.
No, that's powerful, man, because that's pretty much what we do every day. We make decisions on what we do every day, every moment. But I think a lot of times people are always like, man, I don't want to make the wrong decision. I don't want to mess up. And it's that fear of like, if I made the wrong decision, or if I made 10 decisions, all of them wrong, they're afraid to make that 11th decision because they're afraid that everything's going to go down the waste. And I think that's entrepreneurship. That's like life. But like, I mean, I think as young men, we all go through that because we're all like, we feel like we're leaders. We feel like we're either leading some people or leading our families or whatever we're doing. We're leaders. We're being watched. And so we're always like, man, we're tiptoeing instead of just like walking through with assurance, I remember you mentioned to me like this past weekend, like we're talking about a specific topic, but you're like, man, make the decision and go. You don't want to drag on 3 or 4 months from now. And then it gets harder and harder the more you stick to it. Just make the decision and then go after it. So I think that's like every young man, that's what we go through, is that decision making.
Yeah. And go ahead, Joel.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Looking back after that happened to me, I literally wrote trying to figure out what happened. One of my mentors, he was actually a personal mentor of me and he told me, Jeff, and I mentioned this the other day about decision making. He told me for 2 weeks to make a decision for everything, from picking up the cup of coffee, which hand you're going to pick it up with, and choosing and be exhausted. And after 2 weeks, because you'd be surprised how many decisions we don't make in a day. That your brain, your body wants, your subconscious wants to put everything into a habit.
Yep.
You have to force that not to happen. And the way to force that is to choose things that your subconscious would have chose for you. Like you get home, you get in the driveway and you don't know how you got there. That's driver hypnosis. Your brain is wanting to be efficient about making decisions. And I practice all day long. Literally, it's a thing I do. I literally think about decisions that I would make subconsciously, and I force myself to make as many conscious decisions as I can, as quick as I can, because fail fast. Fail fast. Success, like they said this weekend, success is speed, and decisions build momentum. Decisions are fast, and you should learn how to make them fast. And I have a 40-70 rule I go by. If I got 40% of data, I'm making that decision. Sometimes even 20%, I'm making it, because those failures build your gut instinct. They teach you how to make decisions.
Man, that's good. I think there was a study that said we make like 40,000 decisions a day, right? So to go in there and meticulously almost rewire your brain, my goodness, you must have been exhausted. But again, that's the price of being a leader, right? It's one of those things that's a great responsibility. From that 2 weeks, did that just sharpen your mindset? Were you just like able to rewire your brain and kind of restack habits? What did that exactly do for you after those 2 weeks?
I'll tell you what I got out of it was I came to appreciate that I was exhausted. I'm telling you, I take things literally and I go hard at it. And I literally was probably way over the top on it. But I came to appreciate that decision making is a muscle. And if you don't train it and exhaust it and just go hard at it, it's not going to get better. And I think that's one of the things, even today, I think about how many decisions I purposely try to make consciously. And they even say, like, you got to be careful about how many decisions you make in a day. Don't make too many decisions, exhaust you. I don't believe in that. I do not believe in it, because you can learn how to make decisions by making more decisions. And everything is decisions. I mean, that's why I lost out. I'm telling you, out of everything, that is why I failed that day, is because of not making a decision. And I said this the other day. It's not about being fearless. All these guys try to say, hey, I have no fear and I'm this. No, it's not about being fearless. It's about acting in spite of fear.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about.
Absolutely, man. I was telling you my previous life and career. I was in the military. I worked for Special Operations Forces. And if you ever had the opportunity, listen to Robert O'Neill. He talks about the Osama bin Laden raid, and they're flying in on a helicopter into Pakistan, in the middle of the night. The moon isn't even out. And they're all thinking like, we're going to die. You know what I mean? And one of the conversations that they had was, if we know we're going to die going and doing this operation, then why are we going to do it? And they're like, we're going to do it for the the woman that was on the 90 something floor of the World Trade Center that had that, when she jumped off, had the decency to cover her skirt up. We're doing it for her.
Whoa.
Right? And actions and attitudes are the only thing that you can control in this life. And you're so right, Jeff. There's not enough information. There's not enough books to really help make that decision making and refine it. Because if those are the only things that we can control in life, why don't we take a more intentional approach to doing those things? So that's huge, man. I'm going to start implementing that. I'm going to do that for 2 weeks. I'm going to go through and I'm going to be so deeply focused in those decisions. I want to see what it's going to do for me.
It's tough. I mean, it's tough, but
yeah,
I that's one of the things I focus every day on. So every day.
I mean, I think they do. It's kind of what Paul talked about. I feel like they make up stats so people don't even try to figure it out. Like the stats about public speaking, they did it on purpose so no one becomes a public speaker. So the elites stay the elites, And so even with decision making, there's no books out there because the secret is hidden. They want to keep it a secret so majority don't know what's going on. But I think there should be more books about that, because that's pretty much what we deal with every day in life.
We just got to wait for Jeff. Jeff's going to write the book.
Yeah, I'm working on
it. And then you touched on mentorship. Are you currently mentoring people right now, like young adults, or is that something that you're doing now or want to do?
Well, my son, I mentor him every day, which is a blessing. But that is one thing that after this weekend, I go and travel with Paul. We go to 1 or 2 cities a month. And each time I go to a city, I meet young professionals like yourself. And I have great conversations with them. And it reminds me this weekend after talking to you, Joel, is, when I was in my 20s, I would have loved to have someone take interest in me personally. Not that I didn't, but someone that really had some quality, well-rounded life experiences. And that's a passion of mine that I'm hoping to be able to inspire and help young professionals. That's one thing that I got from this weekend is I'm working on trying to find my voice as a speaker, as a mentor, and who I can really help. And I think that this might be an area that I really might dive into a lot more.
Yeah. I'm curious about the connection with Paul Getter. Obviously, you're already, doing well in business. Where did that connection come from? I know you mentioned three months ago, but what got Paul on your radar, and what made you pursue Paul to go and join his inner circle?
Well, this year, one of my goals was just to randomly attend events. And because, I've attended a lot of events in my life. And Paul, I was in Tampa the week prior to that, and his ad popped up. I never even heard of the guy. And I didn't know who he was. And I said, $1,000 ticket, VIP, Tampa. You know what? I'll go back up there for that. And so I signed up right away, and I showed up. I had no idea what this course was about. I had no idea. I'm sitting in this audience, VIP, and I'm looking around, and he starts talking about speaking and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, I don't know how this is going to, I've always wanted to be a speaker. I love it. I love being in front of people. And at the end of the program, actually at lunch, you know what it was is at lunch, there was an individual, a man, his name's Chad from Miami. And I'm like, how am I a personal brand? You guys all know about this. As a 50-year-old, I look at this branding, I think influencers, and like, I'm not that, that's not what I'm about. But he helped me appreciate that, Jeff, like Shaquille O'Neal has multiple companies. He has a brand, and you could be a brand to promote your companies and also be a speaker all at the same time. And so I started thinking about it, and I'm a big learner guy, and I like trying things out that I've never done before. I signed up with Paul. I became, part of the inner circle, and I thought it would really help my business. And I'll tell you what, in the past 3 months, literally within 3 weeks, it changed my life. I looked at things 100% different. And so I've been really learning from him and trying to figure out how to build my brand and how to get my voice out there. And that's helping my business. Literally, I've changed my slides for my business and adapted them to help tell my story about me and my company. And so that's kind of how it happened. It was just by accident.
That's a great accident, right?
Yeah.
We all need some of that right there. But even it's just crazy.
You said it completely changed your. Go ahead, Joel.
Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead. I think he froze. Did he freeze on your end, Paul? Y'all still with me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think Joseph froze. And I was going to make a comment. Just it's crazy that you said you got so much insight from that, even being already a multi-millionaire and having a lot of businesses. That I'm like shocked that you keep learning. So people think once you get there, it's like, man, you just ride the wave and settle, but you got to keep learning. You got to keep changing. So it's just, I don't know. It's just crazy to hear that your experience with Paul and being a part of the inner circle has changed your business, and you're already a multi-millionaire, And so that's all I was going to say, Joe. But yeah, you go ahead.
Well, I'm addicted to just looking things differently. I've been addicted to it since the 7 Habits. He has that picture of the young lady and old woman, and depending on your viewpoint, you might see one or the other. When I saw that paradigm shift, I'm constantly looking for those paradigm shifts. I'm constantly looking at trying to be different, how can I be better? How can I look at the world differently? And Paul opened up a world for me. I've been in the business of lawn and landscape for 30 years. And he opened a world to me that I was not aware of. And I just, like I said, I bathe in pain, and I bathe in like learning and seeing things differently. That's just I'm passionate about it.
That's awesome. No, thank you. Those are the comment. I just recognized it, but go ahead, Joe. You were going to say something. Joe, can you hear us? We can see you, Captain, but we can't hear you. Anyways, I'll pivot to my
Sorry,
next.
I'm having technical difficulties over here.
You good now? I think he's going a little bit slow, but I'll ask my question again. So can you tell me the difference like between a 5-figure, 6-figure, 7-figure business? Like, what's the main difference that you see? So like, let's say I'm Mr. John Smith, right, and I have my business, but it's like a 5-figure business that I make in a year. Can you tell me the difference you see from like a millionaire, a billionaire, and what's the difference in like a business owner? So someone can understand.
I think there's gaps. I'm in the service industry, so I couldn't relate to like on the tech side, but on a service industry, and it's got to be the same business as business. It seems to be that $300,000 to $500,000 mark is a tough mark to just get to that point, and then hitting a million. And I think what you want to do is keep your overhead low. I took there's some guys that really have helped me appreciate the fact of keeping your overhead low and being very careful to hire slow. And trying to get to that $1 million mark is a big deal. And if you can get to that $1 million mark, then you start looking at trying to maybe, is there someone part of your team, even though you got probably a small team, is there someone that you can kind of mold and mentor like I did with Juan? And, obviously they're going to leave. I mean, if they have any type of entrepreneurial spirit, they're going to leave you at some point. But the cost of not training someone is expensive. And so you need to find someone that I've always just looked for people that's in part of my circle and part of my employees to mentor them and help them, train them to be a leader. And, some people will just bring outside talent in. I've always been a big believer on the inside people. And then, scaling up to that 10 million is a whole nother ballgame, 5, 6 million. But it really becomes then about trying to set up systems. But then it's not about, you got to have some systems, but Juan Gonzalez, that guy I talked about, he's running $14-15 million company, and his systems are pretty streamlined. They're pretty simple. I just had lunch with a guy that has a $350 million company. And that's a whole nother level, but it's the same stuff at that level. So, and once you get to that level, it's really, he took his business he bought it from his dad at 35 million, and now he's at 350 million.
Sheesh.
Yeah. He's a big time success story. But you know what? He's very honorable. He has, I mean, you got to just talk to anybody in the industry and that the guy has integrity.
So you're pretty much saying so to get your first 6 figures, get a mentor. Once you get there, get another mentor that's a millionaire. Once you get there, get another mentor that's making 10 million, and just keep growing from there.
Keep leveling up. And that's one thing I've got from Paul. One of the first guys I met from Paul was a very sophisticated individual. Very sophisticated. I mean, beyond what I will ever be in my life. I am far from sophisticated.
He said, "Hey, I'm focusing on my strengths, not my weaknesses."
But I'll tell you what, he is on point. And being around that guy for just 10 minutes, man, he's always promoting. And he's doing it in such a sophisticated way. But just he has a restaurant in Naples. It's private membership restaurant only. It's high end. I'm talking big time high end. I think it's $100,000 to join the restaurant.
Wow.
And I got because of Paul, I got 10 minutes with that guy, and he actually hosted my wife and I for brunch at his restaurant down on Fifth Ave. And he's an exceptional guy. The people I've met from Paul, with being in his inner circle and just being around the guy, it's really opened my that was my goal, which is so crazy. It happened so quick. My goal this year was to expand my network and expand outside of my network. And it happened like this. Like in February, I met Paul, and I've traveled multiple cities, and I've met guys like you. I've met guys like, the restaurant owner. And I met, this weekend, a guy that like the show Landman. He develops and does oils. So it's cool.
Yeah, we're big proponents on your association, giving you the ability to level up, right? Like outside of from me personally, outside of investing into your relationship with God, you're investing into your personal growth and development. The next thing has to be your association, leveling up your association. And it gives you the ability to get around people that you normally wouldn't be able to get around, but it allows you to have that reflection point of, hey, am I on point like this individual? And you can rub shoulders and be like, oh, this is how I do this, but this is how they do this. And they're so much more successful and further beyond than I am, right? You're able to get game is what I call it. You're able to get game from rubbing shoulders with, giants like yourself, man. So association is everything, but we're not intentional with it a lot of times.
I mean, that's a struggle for men. I mean, Jeff, can you talk about a little bit because association, right? When you're elevating, you meet new people, but you have to let go of your old friends. And that's always the biggest hurdle a lot of people go through. It's like, man, but this is my friend forever. But doesn't mean they're going to be your friend in this season, Joseph always talks about the season, the reason. I don't know how you say it, Joseph.
People come into your life for a reason, season, or a lifetime.
Yes. So can you talk about for you, when you're navigating to your wealth, growing your business, you had to let go of some friends and it hurt, Can you talk a little bit about that? Maybe a story you have?
Well, I agree with you. I think people do come in and out of your life. I got a story for you. So the religion that, I don't know if I should touch on this, but the religion I was in, they excommunicate you. So not the biggest fan of that, but at the same time, everybody has the right for their beliefs and what works for them. And I think that if it's working for you, then you should do that. It just didn't work for me. And so that happened to me actually. And during that time, I had a friend of mine that came into my life, just randomly came into my life, and he was there for a reason. And he changed my life, and he helped me in some really dark periods that I had, because I lost thousands of friends, literally, in a day. So, but he came into my life, and I literally would spend a couple of nights a week with him and his wife, and he took me in like a brother. And he's a very religious man. He's got just a tremendous family, and he took me in. And I spent a couple years around him. And then my wife and I got married, and I started really focusing on my marriage. And him and I just talk. We actually had a cigar a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago. So I don't see him very often, but he came in my life, and then he left. And I wanted to say something about, there's guys out there that don't have maybe access to meet guys right now, right? They may not be able to meet the millionaire, the billionaire, right? But I didn't either at my time when I was growing up in my 20s. And you can still you got YouTube, you got books.
Exactly, yeah.
Even if you don't know guys, you can level up by just surrounding with the people that are good and just soak in what they're sharing on YouTube. It's a big platform that there's a lot of leaders on YouTube. If you can't even get in those circles, you will one day by just focusing on that.
That's good. No, I mean, because a lot of times, I went through it too. I have a bunch of friends in college, and then I started leveling up, started changing my life around, and then they all left, and it got me in the place of identity crisis, depression, anger, and then I was like, I'm not helping anybody anymore. But I had to put that to the side and understand that, hey, not everyone's there for your lifetime. Might be there for a moment in your life. So there's a lot of men that go through that.
Yeah, my son's going through it right now. He's 18 and he's cut off a lot of friends. And I told him, and I'll tell you what any young man or old man should do is I told him, look, focus on 6 months on yourself. Who cares about having friends? You got a whole lifetime to have friends.
Yeah.
Focus on yourself.
Yeah.
And
that's great advice.
What you're doing. Yeah.
Great advice. For me, I was lost at 18. I didn't know what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be. So to go undercover for 6 months and just build you up, you're going to learn so much more about yourself in that time frame than, 5 years of being distracted with anybody around you. So that's great fatherly advice. That's great entrepreneurial advice. And it's good to just do anyways. Like you said, in the next 10 years, I better make 100 million, right? Like you're not going to do that from being distracted from people that aren't playing into your vision, into your purpose, right? I think that's the hardest thing that we deal with is like, but this is what I used to like to do, but the old you isn't going to get you to the new you.
Right.
I think that's what's great about religion. I was having a good conversation with my wife yesterday after I got back from Dallas, and we were talking about how, the nice thing about religion is it's a community. It's a group of people that are trying to help each other, and that's what's great about it. It's missing in the world. I think a lot of people are just kind of doing their own thing, and sometimes that's not the best thing. I mean, even though, like I told my son, hey, be yourself, focus on yourself, but then surround yourself with the right people.
Right.
Yeah, God calls us to be in community with other people, right? Like Satan, how he operates and how he's going to steal your purpose from you is to isolate you. So it's good to isolate to grow while being around people that play into your vision. But yeah, we're called for community. I mean, that's what we're all about with our events and just getting, kingdom connections together and leveling up all together, right? Because we so need it. We always talk on our episodes with other guests and just even in private conversations, how we all have a hole in our heart. And a lot of times in our life, we like to put these different things, whether it be, different pleasures, right? Like worldly pleasures, drugs, women, whatever it may be. But that hole is intended for God to be there. And you're not going to feel that fulfillment. You're not going to feel that purpose unless you place God there. I think that's what a lot of people are missing is that, but we get distracted with other things.
We do. And I'm actually encouraging my son. I think he's going to start going to Paul. Paul has a church here. He's a pastor.
Yeah.
He's a solid. That is one solid guy. He's a solid guy. And,
I wish I could get around Paul at 18 years old. My goodness.
No, that's not. I mean,
let me go back in time a little bit.
Yeah,
I think we're doing good, Joe. There's a lot of people that are older than us tell us that you're already getting around him at 30. So I think it's all in God's timing, man.
Yeah. Cole comes to a lot of the events. Actually, I wish he would have been there this weekend. This was a good, solid weekend.
Hopefully, we have the pleasure of meeting him.
I think we're not done. We're going to see each other. I think for a while. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jeff. I texted this to you, but man, you have a presence about you when you speak that just it literally commands the stage. Like when you come in and you talk, man, it's just quiet. All eyes are on you, and the way you use your voice is powerful. I know, God's got big things for you, especially when it comes to speaking and wanting to influence and impact other people's lives. I mean, you're already doing that. You impacted my life this weekend.
Yep.
But man, you're going to speak in front of thousands of people, man. I truly believe that wholeheartedly.
Thanks. I'm really passionate about just because all these mentors, all these books, all these things I've learned, you have a story, I have a story, and it's about combining your story with the principles and values that you've learned and sharing it so that you can change people's lives. Each day I just try to touch somebody's life and change them. And then it's like this interchange. I'm telling you, like you guys, you would be surprised, a 50-year-old guy, what just your conversations with me, the amount of energy and the amount of reflection I took just by those few moments that we spoke.
Man,
that means a lot.
Yeah, that means a lot, man. As you know, I needed to hear it, especially with this foot injury now, getting back in a dark place. But it's like, you know what? I mean, also, too, whenever you're ready, I feel like the master always shows up. When the student's ready, the master shows up. So even today, man, like, I had a guy come talk to me for like 30 minutes about his injuries. I'm just like, man, I'm over here crying for this one leg injury. This guy had to change his whole body. So it's like,
he don't even have legs.
Yeah, he didn't, but he's still working out. He's still going. He's like, man, you could do it too, man. So it's just whenever you're in that dark place, God will always send someone to encourage you. Now, I mean, Jeff, you did that for me this weekend, more than you know or not. Man. One day you will know. And we're going to talk about this. You're like, I didn't know it was that big. I'm like, yeah, man, you spoke life into me. So that's why I'm like, continue doing what you're doing. In fact, do it more. I know you have some things you want to do coming up with speaking, but I figure that's the path that God's going to has the path for you speaking, But I think for young adults, young entrepreneurs, people that go through in their 20s and 30s, they got to hear your story. So thank you.
I appreciate that. You know, that's what I live for. I literally just that makes my night, man.
We love it, man. How can people get connected to you? I don't know how often you're on social media, but how can they follow what you're doing, follow your speaking, where can they see you at?
Well, I need followers. You know, I'm not an influencer, so I'm
Not
just a
yet.
50-year-old guy. So, but you can follow me on Instagram. It's Jeff Kaulbars, and on LinkedIn. Those are really the two main social sites I am a part of. You know, I'm kind of keeping my Instagram right now. I'm kind of going with my personal brand and speaking, and then my LinkedIn I keep more for my Palm Health, and that's one of my businesses, the Palm Health. I'm really passionate about that. So those two sites, and then you can message me there, or my email is jeffcalbars@gmail.com. So either one of those.
Sweet. We love it, man. Yeah, I just the reason I asked you that question the weekend as well, the Western side, you're doing all North America. I think you're gonna be global, man. I think what you're doing is it's a global thing and it's needed. But until then, let's just keep getting better every day until God opens that door for you. But I definitely think it's gonna be global.
Thanks. I appreciate it. It's been a dream of mine for a long time, and it's really just about sharing. One of my missions that I had as a company was learning to serve was our mission. And I'm a big proponent of that, is just like try to serve somebody every day.
Yeah,
I love
I
it.
agree.
Yeah.
Is there
Joel, you have any more questions?
No, I have no more questions. I was going to ask Jeff, like, if there's anything else, any nuggets you want to just speak out right now that you might have or you might be thinking about. I think this would be a good time to do so, unless you don't have anything.
You know, one other thing that I would like to share, I haven't really worked out the details, but it's about the price of abundance. And, you know, we all think about, you hear, hey, no, don't have scarcity mentality, have abundance mentality. And I just briefly, there was a guy that was a keynote speaker at an event. And afterwards, I went up to him, I got his number, and I said, hey, I just need some help. Can I get you a phone call with you? He's like, yeah, you can get a phone call with me. It's $1,000 an hour. I said, okay, well, I need help. So I want to hear what you have to say. Well, it was funny because when our first phone call started, he started it this way. He's like, Jeff, it's $1,000 an hour and it's all rounded up. If I'm on the phone with you 5 minutes, it's 1,000. I'm like, okay, but here's the thing. I'm going to send you an invoice and you pay whatever you think it's worth. And that changed my thinking. And I've used that all the time. And to me, that's the price of abundance is, you know what? You've got to pay a price. There's a cost that's associated with things coming back at you. And so if I was to ever, close with, I would just say, you know what? Put yourself out there, pay a price. Because if you pay the price, whatever that cost is, God, the universe, whatever is going to pay it back to you. It happens. But you have to be willing to pay the price. That's really a big part of my life.
That's good, man. We're, as human beings, we want to take the path of least resistance.
Yes.
Right. We want to do the easiest thing. And I truly believe that's why a lot of people don't succeed, is because of that right there. They're too busy counting the costs, and they're not willing to pay the price. But man,
yeah,
that's
I'll start I do disaster relief on private master plan communities, and I'll literally start a project with no contract, and I'll bring in $50,000 worth of equipment and guys, and we'll start. And that's how you build trust. You make the first step, you put your cards on the table, and yeah, I've burned before, but you'd be surprised by just putting yourself out there, taking a risk. And if you take that risk first and you put the effort in, it builds trust. Covey's son has a book called The Speed of Trust.
great book too.
Oh, it's a phenomenal book. And I believe that that's kind of like the same thing as the price of abundance is it's going to cost you. It's going to cost, and sometimes it's really painful cost, but it will come back.
That's
Yeah,
good.
that's a great way to close it out, man. I'm like, you're giving me enough stamina to go another hour with you, brother.
Yeah, I'm like, man, I can keep going with this, but no, thank you so much for this because, like I said, man, that you encourage me more than you know, and I'm gonna keep saying that probably for the rest of my life as long as I know you. So
Man.
thank you for just being you, and I thank God for allowing you to go through all that trauma, everything you went through. All points made you the man you are today, which encouraged me, and which is gonna encourage a lot more people. So that's what it's about, man. That's way worth more than money.
Thanks.
Amen.
I don't even know what to say. That's a tremendous compliment. I mean, I love you guys. I only met you and spent 2 days with you, but man, there's a love there that's going to last a lifetime. And even if you're in my life for a season, like Joseph says, it's been an awesome season.
Yeah. Hey, I'm trying to be in your life for a lifetime, man. So don't try to get rid of me so fast.
All right. Let's do that. All right. You got All right. I like it.
No, I appreciate it, man. Love you, man. Thank you for being you. Continue being you. Don't let anyone discourage you, which you already know. But I just can't wait to see the next 10 years of your life, and vice versa, man. We're just gonna be each other's lives. So thank you.
I love it. You're welcome.
We normally end the podcast with a prayer. I don't know if you'd feel comfortable leading us in prayer. If not, I got you.
Yeah, I'll lead in prayer.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. Yep.
Bow our heads.
Dear Heavenly Father, it's moments like this and time that we can spend as in a safe space, sharing our life lessons and the things that we've learned, encouraging each other. We thank you for everything that you've done for mankind. We know that this day and age that we're living in is rough. Every day we're facing just sometimes it feels like just impossible odds. But we want to allow you to affect our life, allow you to work through these young men. They're shining examples of superstars in life, and we need that. We need people like this. My son needs examples like this, and we want them to be a face of change. And we want that to influence the bad things and the bad environments that's taking place. There's a lot of pressure in this world, and we just need leaders. We need examples. We need followers that are going to do what's right in the midst of all the chaos. And we ask that you bless these guys and in their cause. And we approach you through Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Powerful.
Thank you so much, Jeff. We appreciate you. This has been another episode of the Crowncast. We'll catch you next time.